Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Play the Hits. Nick, what the hell just happened to us tonight?
Oh dear, should I be hearing something, or is it just a completely quiet title screen?
You should, in theory, be hearing something. Are you able to see me scrolling through the menu options?
I can see, I just hear nothing.
You hear nothing. How great. Let's see if that changes as we get into the actual game, because maybe it is a little on the quiet side. But we're taking a break from Final Fantasy to play some Final Fantasy. But this, of course, is the Pixel Remaster, but not quite as you expect. Because if you look at the sprites, I went ahead and modded it because there was there's a group who is dedicated to modding all of the Square Enix games that are available on Steam and basically polishing them up where Square Enix is unwilling to do so. So what they've done here is they've actually taken the class sprites from Final Fantasy Record Keeper, which are far superior to the sprites that this game comes with, and they deposited them in here. I even have a special guest sprite, which you'll see probably about halfway through the game, so keep that in mind.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So Nick, given that we were originally supposed to play Hammerwatch tonight, but I disappointed you on that front, I'm going to give you the honors of naming our characters.
Well, tell you what, I'm gonna go grab a call real quick. Why don't you go ahead and name them, and I'll be back in like 60 seconds.
All right, you go for it.
Just a sec.
And we are back. Nick, what do you think of what I've done here?
Oh gosh, I leave the room for 5 seconds, and you did pretty much what I would have done anyways.
That's kind of what I figured.
So weird.
The wild card is our white mage, Dio.
Yeah, there you go.
Was I Dio? Anywho. Yeah.
What are the other two classes? Because there's like 6 classes, right?
Yes, you also get Red Mage and Monk. In my playthrough of this about a month ago, I did the Monk. Red Mage I just never liked very much because you get like not very good attack and like middling magic. I just prefer to have more specialized classes. So I always
My understanding is that the Red Mage is pretty powerful early on, but never quite hits good endgame stats, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Though I've seen people do playthroughs of this game with nothing but red mages in their party. So.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if you had a whole party of them, I could see that as being workable, but...
Yeah. Well, until you actually try to distribute all of your equipment evenly.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that, too.
Yeah.
What's the kink with monks?
Monks are great. It's almost like easy mode because eventually they just run away with attack power when they're bare-fisted. Like for the first part of the game, they're fairly balanced. Their downside is extremely low defense. But yeah, after a while, they just become so powerful that they wipe out most enemies in one hit or so. Especially on the NES version, they were just broken.
Okay, yeah, so their thing is they can't wear armor and weapons?
They can wear armor.
Okay.
Their armor, they're constrained to light armor, so relatively weak.
Oh, no wonder they're so weak.
Stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, right. But again, their weapons, they get like basic weapons to give them a boost at the start of the game, but then it's better just to go with no weapons at all on them because their bare fists are so powerful.
I think I've played this game twice, maybe 3 times across all the iterations.
Okay, so it's been a little while for you. Like I said,
So I recall very little, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, this is the Pixel Remaster. I've modded it a little bit to make it more aesthetically pleasing. But, yeah, we've got a basic party here, and there's really not much to say to introduce this game. It is the progenitor of the Final Fantasy series, and, you know, it's one of those games that I've played pretty much every iteration of it, and I always find something to enjoy. It's kind of just one of those games that never fails to scratch an itch. Okay, you do get some equipment upgrades here. So let's go ahead and do that. The nice thing here is, as I said while you were taking your phone call, they've added a couple of creature comforts that, of course, were not in the original game to make things more playable, which is very nice. It's not quite as easy as the PSP version, but nowhere near as frustrating as the NES original. So that is a plus.
Okay, remind me, what is the value of the thief? I mean, I'd imagine they have high attack speed, but that wasn't a thing in that game?
Yeah, so they did fix that. The thief hits quite a bit, which is nice. He also basically guarantees that when you try to flee, you'll succeed. So that is a plus. The real benefit to the thief, though, doesn't become apparent until he becomes a ninja. When you upgrade your classes. Oh,
right. I forgot there's that weird class change halfway through the game.
Right. At which point, though, he becomes extremely useful, because not only do you get the relatively high hit rate, not only do you get the great evasion and everything else, but he can also cast like middle level black magic, which means that he can help the black mage to boost your party's attack.
Okay.
I never cast blinks.
I vaguely recalled that.
Yeah. You'll notice also in this version they went back to the original NES MP system. So you have a set number of times you can cast the spells instead of what basically amounted to a bottomless pool of MP in the GBA and PSP versions.
Which was helpful for the endgame dungeons that, came after.
That was really the closest thing those games had to any kind of challenge. In this game, of course, you don't get any of that endgame stuff, which was introduced on the GBA, but they compensate for it by basically polishing the core game to pretty much a mirror sheen. Like, there's little negative I can say about it. It is certainly probably the most enjoyable iteration of this game that I've played. So I give Square Enix kudos for that.
Well, I still find it strange that one can call it pixel perfect, and I still have no idea what that necessarily means, because it's not the original graphics. It's kind of original graphics with some updates and creature comforts. So
correct.
Yeah.
So their goal in this was to make an experience as close to the original game as possible in the 21st century. So obviously you're seeing right now that this castle is not in the 4:3 original aspect ratio, but full 16:9 HD. The sprites have been retooled, but then I'm actually not playing this in its, traditional form. I wasn't super crazy about the new sprites. So, like I said, I went ahead and looked at the mod community and saw what they were doing, and I found that I much preferred the mobile game, the what's it called? Record Keeper sprites. And so I went ahead and downloaded them and inserted them into this game. So really, for me, the joy of owning it on the PC is pretty much a zero compromise experience. You can do absolutely what you can kind of make it into any iteration that you want. Like, they have the GBA sprites. For instance, if you really liked those, you could plug in the PSP ones. You could you can basically make it, you can kind of tool it to be the Final Fantasy of your choice. I imagine it's only a matter of time before they replace the default MP system with the one that you and I just discussed from the GBA port. I don't quite know how they would do that, but, modders are incredible, so they can pretty much do anything they like these days.
Except, I guess, mod in all that sweet endgame extra content that came standard, but
it's like you were saying, though, I bet you it won't be long before Square Enix announces that as DLC, and God help me, there are certain games like FF4 that I'll probably pay for it again. Especially considering that I basically purchased these games for $10 a pop. That's worth it to me.
I forget. Do you have to do something to get the Brit? Oh, you've got to fight Garland to get the
Yeah,
bridge.
we're going to fight Garland. I'm basically just getting myself up to level 3 or 4 to make it so that we don't have any problems with him.
Right, because you got to go through that first shrine or whatnot.
Yeah, and this is really about the only grinding you're actually going to see me do on camera, because for the rest of the time between episodes, I'll absolutely just gain a few levels between each episode, and we should be in good shape. Because, like I said, I've gone through this game enough times that there aren't going to be any surprises, and it's, you know, the first Final Fantasy, so it's basic enough that we're not going to run into any major issues, I'm thinking.
I saw Final Fantasy IV is getting ready to drop on Steam soon.
Yeah, 3 days.
Oh, is that when it is? Okay, I didn't see an official date on it.
Yeah, September 8th. So I'll be picking that up here in real short. Well, not picking it up. I already own it. I just need to download it.
yeah, because you bought it.
Yeah, I bought the combo pack to save a few bucks. And, you know, I'm really glad I did, because originally I was thinking, you know, I'll definitely play 1, but what surprises are 2 and 3 really going to hold for me? I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed revisiting 2. The Pixel Remaster version of that game is easily the most playable I've seen, to the point where I actually had fun with that game for the first time. I have only ever played it on the not the PSP, the GBA remake, which is essentially the PSP remake as well. And it was not a fun game. Returning to it in this form, though, it's nowhere near a top-tier Final Fantasy experience, but at the same time, I actually found things to enjoy, so I consider that a win.
If you're gonna compare a game from 1986 to the Final Fantasy VII remake, you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, even out of the 3 NES originals, it is notably the worst one. And I think there are many people who would probably consider about the series worst. Say that again?
I said, to this day, I've not played 3 yet. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, actually, 3 is a phenomenal little gem. If you liked 5, which I know you did, you'll like 3. But 3 is noticeably more, I guess, antiquated than 5, but at the same time, I find it extremely impressive that they were able to do what they did with 3 on the NES hardware. It is easily probably the most ambitious NES game I've seen. One more level here, and we should be able to rest up and go take on Garland. But yeah, it's if nothing else, I would at least, if I were you, shop through the Pixel Remaster series and see which games you're actually going to play and play them in this version, because it really is neat, not only to have them on your Steam account, so they'll be able to come with you with whatever future PC upgrades you get.
Oh no, that's a hard pass, unfortunately. Without the endgame content, that's a deal breaker for me.
Okay, well, and again,
I just have this
I
thing
don't doubt
about
that they'll probably introduce that, but
I mean, I'm not going to pay more for less game. Plus, I already own these games for the most part, with the first iteration, which was those, I don't know, everyone gave those straight-up mobile ports a hard time, but, I mean, they weren't pretty, but, you know, you got the gist of it.
Yeah, no, they
had
bad.
fun. I mean, for God's sakes, even the mobile ports had the Final Fantasy 5 and 6 extra content.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they did have all the GBA bells and whistles, didn't they?
And that was nice to be able to replay all that. 5 and 6 again. That had some stellar extra content.
It did. Yeah, I'm not questioning you there. I guess what I'm just saying is that I'm of the age really where, like, just the appeal of owning it on my Steam account and being able to actually tinker with the games is attractive enough to me that I'm willing to throw $10 more Square Enix's way.
I guess you don't use romhacking.net too often, then, huh?
No, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's how I got these particular sprites in here.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you can just go ahead and grab a standard emulator and throw most of that stuff in. But then, with this, you get these delightful, I guess, creature comfort tweaks.
Oh, and by the way, are you actually able to hear the game now?
No, but
Ooh.
That's fine. I'll just have to imagine the.
No, that's not acceptable.
Music.
I want to fix that real quick because you're actually missing the absolute best part of this. Give me 1 second here. Okay, is it back up on your end?
No, I see nothing now.
Okay, how about now?
Nope.
Wait, for real?
Correct, yeah.
All right.
That's exactly why I didn't want to mess with it.
There we go. How about now?
Nope.
Try clicking next to my profile picture, because it says that I'm streaming it with you. It says live.
Okay. All right. You know what? It's working. And I can hear you.
Oh, hello. We seem to have lost Nick.
Hello.
There we go. Hello.
No, you have a Doom Eternal problem. It's either this or it's either I see the game and then you can't hear me, or I get no sound and then you do hear me.
You're kidding.
All
right. Well, let's see here. Here's what I'll do. We'll just go back to sharing the screen for right now. All right. Are you able to see my OBS?
Yes.
Okay, but for some reason when I try to application share, it gives you a weird problem now. Alright, what do you have now? Oh, hello?
Okay. Hello. How about now?
Yeah. What are you able to see?
Yeah, see if I look at if I you can hear me currently?
Yes.
Okay, you know what? I have this figured out now. It's fine.
Okay, you able to see the game?
I can see it. It's just in windowed mode.
Okay. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. I'll take that.
It's not pretty, but I get it'll work.
So the best part of this is actually the completely remastered soundtracks. Nomura went like balls to the wall for these things. And so it's like all fully orchestrated.
Nomura had something to do with this?
Yeah, or sorry, Nobuo Uematsu, sorry.
Oh, okay. He's still working for them?
They brought him back for all of these. And basically they gave him free license to do whatever the hell he wanted, basically just make the games what he always wanted them to be. As far as the music goes.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's pretty baller. There are a few things that I would use that word to describe, but this is absolutely one of them. He did a phenomenal job with the remastered soundtracks. So here, of course, we have the Chaos Shrine. If I run into the Warg Wolves, we may have to do just like a quick save, quick load kind of situation, but that one's locked. But most of the enemies in here, there's no problem. Just for some reason, they include those damn poison wolves, and it's always a problem.
How does that door unlock?
Oh, we come back when we get the key. The magic key.
What's behind the door? Is it just treasure boxes? I don't remember this.
Oh, yeah. Yep. About halfway through the game, you get the magic key, and then you...
Oh, that's right. You gotta be like the king of the elves or something.
Yep.
God, I wish I was making
Mystic
that up.
key, not magic key. Come on, Chris. Amateur mistake.
You were probably thinking of the magic key from Legend of Zelda 2.
I was actually probably thinking of Dragon Quest, which is also another original NES game that I
It's almost
can
like
floor
this is an
pretty
overused
easily.
trope.
All right, we do have some wolves here, but they're not the green ones, so I think we're going to be in okay shape. Garland should go down without a whole lot of issues.
He usually does.
Yeah. Though, interestingly enough, this game did have a way of making you work for your victories. At least in the early portion of the game. Until you get items that cast basically unlimited spells for you. Oh, there's the Warg Wolves. Alright, now we're in trouble. We're gonna have to use some magic. Oh god, they're not dying, Nick.
Oh, why are these so strong?
I don't know why they include them in this dungeon. They're way beyond your usual power level. Just gonna make sure that we survive this fight.
Yeah,
oh dear God!
White mage for your job. White mage.
All right, I think we're gonna be okay though. There we are. We got him. Okay, we're in good shape.
Assuming you don't run into more.
Why did I just cast fire again? Come on, Chris.
Doesn't the fighter become a knight or a paladin or something, and then get the cover ability later?
A knight, yes, and
Okay.
no cover ability that I'm aware of. He does gain the ability to cast a low to mid-level white magic.
I see. That's good. It frees your white mage up to use white magic, presumably.
Correct. Well, while he's doing like protect and other buffs, they're able to actually focus on the task of healing. Okay, yeah. This is the first time I've used the thief in this iteration of the game, and I am noticing they are substantially more useful than their early NES iteration. Ooh, the Gigas Worms can present a problem too, but we've got a preemptive strike, so we're in good shape.
Yeah, I think the thief also raised your preemptive strike value as well, didn't he?
Yes,
Or am
I think there was some kind of formula where it's like a pool of everybody's agility stat or hit stat or something like that.
I wasn't sure if I was thinking of this game or 5.
Yeah, but no, you're correct. I think it works similarly to... I'm going to have to be real careful because that will delete my default save if I'm not cautious, which I don't want to do. One more battle and I should level up here, and then we can use the tent and go... Oh, come on, really? Everyone has 1 EXP to level up.
I'm a little surprised this game doesn't have a turbo mode, but...
It does. That's what I'm... See the top left fast arrow there?
Oh, okay, I see.
That's why all of my characters are just auto-attacking. There we go. Good job, everybody. Damn, look at Dio's HP. The white mage is like running away with HP right now. That can happen sometimes because some of the status gains were random, I believe. I mean, they're based around their core stats, but there's a lot of flexibility there.
No, I think you're right. That sounds familiar.
There we go.
Who was the ultimate enemy in the GBA bonus content?
It was some kind of like Time Guardian or something. It was like a mishmash-looking enemy.
Sure, that wasn't the PSP version, or maybe I'm not sure.
Did they add? Maybe they added that extra to the PSP. You could be right.
Because I remember you had to fight Omega and Shinryu at one point, but they weren't the penultimates.
Right. I remember in the GBA version, there was a cool thing where you fought, like, bosses throughout all of the series. And then I think you're right, though. I think the PSP kept all of those, and they might have added, like, some kind of Chronos...
No, Chronodia, but it was completely... Oh, God. I cannot remember.
Well, I never actually played the PSP version. I only heard about it through hearsay.
I think that had to do more with randomized dungeons. It might have been both. It might have been a big randomized dungeon and that extra content.
And there was like a time limit or something on the boss? Am I correct in remembering that?
Something along those lines.
I'm going to let the music go for an extra second just so that you can enjoy it.
This is so weird having like really high quality music over so graphics. It's like putting Kobe beef into dollar store ramen noodles.
I like it though. The juxtaposition of the original style graphics. They basically just made the whole series as though it were SNES titles, but for some reason in 1080p. And then having this like beautifully orchestrated music over it, I don't mind that one bit. I actually really enjoy it.
If I'm not mistaken, this game had elves in it, right?
Correct. Yep, that's
Yeah.
pretty much where we're working our way towards after this.
Yeah, this was like that awkward phase of the series where it was trying to figure out just how high fantasy it wanted to be.
Oh yeah. No, the cool thing about the original
Because you
Final
never
Fantasy
see elves ever again in the series, is what I'm getting at.
until the online games actually.
Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. We don't see elves again in Final Fantasy until really until 11 and 14. Which is kind of an interesting omission because they do keep the dwarves.
I guess it's how much they wanted to ape Tolkien-esque mythology.
Well, so yeah, that was going to be what I was going to say, is that the first Final Fantasy, in its NES iteration, as well as what we're seeing here, it's very much a shameless Dungeons and Dragons style RPG, which is something they would not ever really revisit. I mean, granted, it was boiled down to like its most basic form, but everything that it takes from D&D, which is kind of cool. We can go quest now, Nick.
Oh, hurrah.
Let's
So
not
now the
forget the
bridge is
loot,
repaired?
which will bring us into the final dungeon unless we forget about it. There was one time where I absolutely forgot to talk to Princess Sarah, and then for the life of me could not figure out why I couldn't enter the final dungeon.
Oh, yeah, you'd probably check everything except that, too.
Right, I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Did my game glitch? Because it gives you no indication whatsoever. It's not like you can look at something and be like, boy, if only we had an instrument to play.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Alrighty, we'll come back to Castle Cornelia once we get that mystic key, and then we're going to make bank.
I'm trying to remember, do you get vehicles and boats and airships in this game as well?
Yeah, we're about to get the boat. That'll probably be where this episode ends. We're going to go fight some pirates and get the boat.
That's right, I remember the boat. And vaguely the airship.
Well, the trick is, once you get the airship, that gives you access to the new job classes, because you can go and talk to Bahamut and get ready for the Citadel of Trials. And so if you know where to if you know where to get the airship, then you can actually, I think there's a way that you can upgrade your job classes before like you do the second crystal dungeon.
I don't remember this game being too non-linear, but I think I
can
gotta
be
be honest. Huh?
It can be, actually. Like,
I think I remember getting, and this is just me, I think I remember just getting irritated with the open-endedness of the game, and then just like literally pulling up a physical guide I had for the game, and
oh sure, yeah,
just following that.
And it can absolutely be a little frustrating as far as it's the fact that it doesn't really tell you a whole lot of where to go. But at the same time, I think at the age that I played it, that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about it, was the process of discovery. So I mean, nowadays at age 34, like, I don't really have the time for that shit necessarily. But back in the day, that was kind of the great thing. You had this big world to explore, and you were rewarded for exploring. But it was an NES game, so there were like one or two things, like, for instance, where to find the bottled fairy in this random desert nook, which were kind of bullshit.
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily one of those games I wanted to spend a full 40 hours with.
Yeah. Well, for me it was. But then, like I said, I played it pretty young, so...
Well, I mean, like, I think there's a big difference between playing a very simplistic RPG like this for 40 hours versus one that has a richness of depth like
Oh, yeah.
5 or 6.
Well, but back in the day, this absolutely did have that richness and depth. We just, didn't know what we were missing because it hadn't been done yet. I'm not out of things to say. I'm just really enjoying this music. And you know what's weird is that even after all these years, and like you said, when comparing it to FF7 Remake and like a couple of more modern projects, it's very clearly an antiquated game. Yet at the same time, I'm of such a mind that like this is still every bit as enjoyable to me, if not more so in certain parts, than their most modern offerings. Well, like there's something about this style of game that is eternally appealing to me.
I would almost certainly never pick this game up again.
Okay.
But yet,
no, I feel you.
4...
I'm saying this may be like a character flaw of mine. I'm a sucker for exactly this era and style of game.
Well, where I was trying to take my thought was that I would almost certainly never pick this game up again, but it is very similar to 4. 4 I would pick up again. 4
time and time again, absolutely.
Yeah, that game I can replay any number of times, and I'm trying to, in my head, figure out what exactly that is. I mean, is it the plot? Is it the combat structure? Is it the level progression?
Yeah, I think 4 was really kind of the sweet spot for the Final Fantasy series. It was...
Well, it's like the Mario Brothers 3 of the series.
It had not succumbed to modernity yet, but it was still very classic, but it had, an engaging plot. The way that they shifted between characters and just kind of threw them at you at a moment's notice meant that you kind of had to adapt yourself.
Let's take plot out of the equation. I think there's a gameplay explanation here. The plot was great. I still enjoy 4's plot. I'm trying to think. I think it was gameplay based.
I really do think it was the way that they threw new characters and by extension job classes at you constantly. Like, for instance, the Tower of Zot, where you had freaking Tella with his 99 MP only, and then Cecil Yang and Sid. I mean, that could be really challenging to figure out how to ration your resources and get through that. They did some creative things with that.
I think it's that the combat felt a lot more rewarding and that you had a better sense of progression.
Well, it also introduced the ATB system, lest we forget.
That game, you could have told me that game was just your guys attack and then they attack, and I would almost believe you. The ATB system really doesn't stand out in my head too much.
Oh, really? Okay. Now, see, in this one, especially in the early part of the game, it literally is just trade attacks until someone wins. Fuck this ogre. Oh god, he's trading attacks harder than my attacks now.
Yeah, that's I think what a good portion of it is that you really can just mash that A button until the fight is over, and that's true for a vast majority of this game, I think. 4, there was a lot of interesting situations where, like, say, Mount Ordeals, perchance, where a lot of your standard tactics become null and void, given the class of enemies.
God help you that first time that you face Scarmiglione, and you don't know that he's going to come back and attack you from behind. So, like, the very first thing that you have to do in that fight is adjust your rows to make Cecil back in the front and all of your mages in the back, or he's just going to wipe you out.
The combat was more interesting, the progression was more interesting, as well as what was the other thing I was gonna say?
You were hot for Rydia? Everyone
think that
was.
There was.
It's okay to admit it. You were a little hot for Rydia, so was everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the variety. No, I'm like really trying to figure out what. Oh, that's what it was. Yes, I think it's the. I think part of the core of my argument here is my Lufia 2 experience, where fine game, but the sprites were just so god awful boring.
Wait, did you ever finish Lufia 2?
No, I got to the part where you defeat Gaides, and then I just kind of hit pause, and I said, I will probably come back to this at some point, but yeah.
2 years later, here we are.
Well, maybe a year later.
A year.
No,
okay.
it's a fine game, but boy, those sprites were just boring and lifeless. And 4 was neat. 4 was an event. I remember being actively excited to see what the new enemies in an area looked like.
Yeah, no,
you were never
I don't
bored.
disagree with you at all. 4 is a darling. I mean, there's a reason that it's been remade as many times as it has. Really, Mohawk? You're just gonna fucking... All right. Yeah, no, there is a solid reason that 4 has appeared on basically every console since 1992. It's just it holds up. It really does.
Well, like I said, it's like the Mario 3 of the series, in that it just took everything that worked and pushed the system to its limits.
And I will say, as much as I love 4, I still stand by my statement. In a weird way that I can't quite quantify, this game holds up for me. Not quite as much as 4, but definitely does.
Well, really and truly, though, I mean, how did they fit 4, 5, and 6 on an SNES cartridge? That still boggles my mind. Not as much as Mario Brothers 3 being fit on a cartridge, but... Huh.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, 6 in particular, it wasn't just like the amount of content, it was the fidelity of it. I mean that soundtrack, even though it's all beeps and boops, it still is a joy to listen to. The graphics are impressive, especially when you consider that it was completed on the NES. I mean, there is no part of 6 that is not impressive, even to this day. But what's nice about this particular version of the original game to me is that it maintains the charm of the original, and like I said, it hit me at kind of the right point in life where I really enjoyed this game. But then, for me, out of all of the iterations that have come out since the NES original, this version probably most recaptures that sense of kind of childhood enjoyment. And I'm sure there's people that would vehemently disagree with me on that point, but for me, it works.
Well, I mean, you like what you like. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
At about the same time period, I played through Mario RPG about 20 times.
Oh, man. Hell yeah.
Another Square Enix title.
Yep. Yeah, Square Enix Squaresoft, rather, defined so much of my childhood. It's ridiculous how much of my own, creative impulse to write things and, enjoy the kind of content I enjoy comes directly from them. Let's see here. Silence does jack shit, so...
Are you implying that this current generation, whose bread and butter is Fortnite, is going to be creatively bankrupt?
No, I think they'll find their own ways to, be every bit as reminiscent and inspired by Fortnite as I was, Final Fantasy IV. But at the same time, I'm fully aware that being a 34-year-old man, I just receive this game differently than someone who was born in 2005 would.
Well, there's a fundamental difference between a game like this that was made in the 1980s with what it could do.
Oh yeah.
Versus a game that's going to come out now. I mean, these games are infinitely more polished because you had what was it, 3 megabytes on the cartridge? So I mean, you you had to make sure like everything was exactly the way you wanted it.
Oh yeah.
You had to make use of all that cartridge space.
Absolutely.
I mean, the game development now is just it's much easier. I mean, good lord, you can even just grab most of your assets already off of Unity, which
Yeah,
isn't a
that's
bad
true.
thing. I'm not dogging on Unity. I'm playing a Unity game right now, but
Oh really? What's that?
I'm playing through Ender Lilies, which was
Ender
supposed to be like, boy, if you loved Hollow Knight, you'll love this. And I've been playing through it, and it's just kind of like, this is all right, I guess.
Dude, have you seen, like, there's a solid, like, 15 to 20 Metroidvania style games that are coming out within the next year. And, you know, varying quality, I'm sure. So some of them look phenomenal, some of them look so-so to not very good. But at the same time, like, I remember how novel Super Metroid felt back in the day, and, you know, there's so many games today that still kind of chase that dragon that made that game so special.
Well, I mean, people who grew up in that game use that as the base of inspiration for what they want to do. But see, the thing
Exactly.
is you have a whole team of people working on Super Metroid, and then you got maybe a couple guys on a Kickstarter doing a Super Metroid inspired game. And
Sure.
unfortunately, as I've learned, because I've played a lot of these games, it shows because where you have some good ideas as far as, say, exploration, world building, and weapons go,
Yeah.
they also tend to lack competency in other areas such as music composition. Like, that's one of my complaints with what I'm playing right now with Ender Lilies. It's got the music is solid, the atmosphere is good, but boy, that combat is just
Dry.
absolutely flaccid, and it's like,
Yep.
oh my god, this completely ruins the experience. Everything else about this game is pretty competent except this.
But
But
bone
this
dry.
is so
huh?
important to the game. It's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, unfortunately the combat isn't very good in this 2D combat heavy game.
Right.
Where does that leave me?
No place good. No, I completely understand that. But, you know, my encouragement there is that for every game like that that is released, you'll occasionally strike gold with the exception, such as Hollow Knight. And you know, if even one of those games, even if it's the
Or
sequel to
Stardew
Hollow
Valley.
Knight, proves
Yeah.
to be as good as that game, then I am thrilled because I love that genre of game.
Right, and yeah, like you said, for every 100 of those that don't quite make it, you've got your Hollow Knights, your Stardew Valleys, your
Yep.
Bug Fables, your games that are just
Yeah.
phenomenal, and also made by only a handful of people.
Exactly. So, like, there's the downside, which is that we're so completely oversaturated with games today that it's hard to sift out the rare gems. But on the other hand, you do, just by process of elimination, get a lot more of those rare gems. So, yeah, I think it's a good time to be a gamer.
I as a libertarian, yeah, I will always think that more people being able to make games is a good thing. To be able
Sure.
to have access to those tools, even if the vast majority of it ends up being mediocre, you're still getting your gems that rise to the top.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is precisely my thought on it. And, you know, if nothing else, we're never more than 4 or 5 years away from the next time that they remake a beloved classic like we're seeing right now, and I can just capitalize on nostalgia all over again.
I think there's an interesting argument about how, as people get older, they will tend to rewatch the same movies,
Yeah, you know,
reread the same novels,
Yep.
read the same Bible verses over and over again. Isn't that essentially the exact same thing in our case? Sticking
you
with,
are absolutely right, and I've noticed that about myself lately. Like for right here, I'm playing Final Fantasy 1 for the second time in a single month, whereas I'm sitting on at least 3 games that I can think of off the top of my head that I've purchased new but haven't gotten around to yet. And like new games that do new things. But here I am.
Well, it's almost as though all this stuff is cyclical in nature, you know.
Yeah, right. Like nostalgia is a funny creature, isn't it? Remember what I said about not grinding on camera? I swear to God, I'm not trying to do this.
Well, you really can't do that during the first episode because you have to grind through that stuff to get to the first dungeon.
Absolutely. This could be problematic. I'm going to go ahead and preemptively cure my Black Mage, because I just don't see him surviving more than one hit.
Yeah, they did allow you a pretty fair amount of freedom once you got your ship. Huh.
Yes. Especially once you get past the Elven Castle and open up the world at large. I mean, then it's really, at that point, just figure out where the hell to go.
Can you believe that Amazon Prime is releasing, speaking of elves, can you believe that Amazon Prime is doing both, what is it, a $200 million rendition of Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time simultaneously?
Yes, and I actually just today watched the trailer for Wheel of Time, and I mean, I'll watch it. I'm paying for Amazon Prime anyway. If it turns out to suck, then what have I lost? If it turns out to be good, then I'm getting something good for free. Or as free as something comes these days.
Yeah. No, that is 100% true in that...
Because I'm paying for Prime
anyway. You've already got it.
Yeah, so. Right. So I'm willing to give that a shot. So, Lord of the Rings, what I understood about that was that it's actually a... It's not quite like Silmarillion level of Tolkien lore, but it's not like the main story that the movies covered all over again.
That would be a shame, because the Silmarillion is an enormously boring body of work.
Yeah, no, they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're kind of doing some of the stuff that was, like, I guess, off camera in the Lord of the Rings originals.
I'm assuming it's going to be inspired by Lord of the Rings, and it is not going to cleave very closely to the books themselves, right. Because those are actually very focused and dry, and there's no females anywhere.
So there is a whole if you've read the Lord of the Rings, correct?
Yeah.
So you remember in the Fellowship of the Ring, whereas in the movie, there's like one scene between where Gandalf leaves Frodo, and he says, "Hang on to the ring, I'll be right back," and then he's right back. Whereas in the books, that's like 50 years, and in that time, Gandalf like teams up with Aragorn to track down Gollum. They learn everything about like what Sauron is doing. He goes to Minas Tirith and Minas Morgul to consult with other wizards, and there's like all kinds of stuff that happens, and Tolkien explains that over the course of like 2 or 3 chapters. But in the movie, of course, it's 50 seconds because that's boring as shit. Let's get to the main plot. I think from what little I understand about what they're trying to do, this movie or this series attempts to fill in some of those blanks. So we may be seeing like Tom Bombadil. We'll probably see some young Aragorn and
I'm sure that they'll just I am sure that they will fluff the ever living hell out of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they know they can't touch the movies. Like the movies are so universally beloved that they can't possibly ever try to remake them. So they're gonna fill in like, you know, the missing chapters of the Tolkien lore. Which, again, if it's good, then great. If it's not, then I just won't watch it. Or I'll probably watch the first episode and then decide it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I was never really into the whole Tolkien-esque lore.
Okay.
I don't know. I always found that to be very dry. Very dry. Okay, he had really interesting ideas, but I always felt that they were executed in the most boring ways.
Okay, so do you want my personal advice on that? Try rereading the books, but skip all of the parts where they break into song. And tell me if the plot doesn't flow a little better.
No, because all the interesting stuff is in the background. I mean, you have your, like, Nazgul, or the Witch Kings, which was interesting. And then Gandalf's like, yeah, I'm just gonna like wash them away with the river, and then we'll never see them again.
But
And it's
that's
like,
hardly
okay, that
captured.
was interesting. Now let's go follow Frodo and fucking Sam Tully for.
But that was hardly captured in those random musical numbers. Like they would be in the middle of fucking Barad-dûr, and all of a sudden Sam would break out into this song about a horse he knew one time.
See, the thing is, when I was growing up and I was like exposed via osmosis to Lord of the Rings, I knew that there was a Bilbo Baggins. I never knew that there was, what is his name even? Sam?
Samwise, yeah, he's
Samwise.
basically the main character, dude.
I'm getting him confused with Samuel Tully from Lord of the Game of Thrones.
I got you. Yeah, no,
Sam was a complete detriment.
Gamgee is who you're thinking of.
I was like waiting for him to just get fucking murdered.
No,
and it never happened.
Dude, there would be no
I would be so fine with
or
Baggins.
plot at all without Sam. Sam is the backbone of the entire narrative. Fight
And
me.
unfortunately, he's an annoying character.
No.
It's like
I will not hear you diss my Sam.
he was there essentially just to stroke Bilbo Baggins's ego. I
You don't
guess,
even have the right Hobbit. He was Frodo's servant, not Bilbo's.
You know what? That is that is the level that I care about Lord of the Rings.
This will follow this under agree to disagree.
To take some jewelry and throw it into a mountain. That is, and it takes 3 books to tell this story.
Nick, what I would like to see, I challenge you, my friend, to remake The Lord of the Rings entirely in novel form, but I want you to make it about an old man crossing town to return soup to a deli.
Hey, you know what? Here's my answer. No, because there's so many other series that I could read that are just far more interesting.
No, I don't want you to read it. I want you to remake it. I want you to do a 21st century adaptation of Lord of the Rings about a bitter old man who's returning soup to a deli, and I want you to do it in Tolkien-esque fashion.
That book's already been written. It was Odysseus. No, it was the Odyssey.
That was centuries before.
Oh god, I can't remember the guy's name.
Literally eons before Lord of the Rings.
No, this was written by the Irish author.
Oh, well, what are you thinking of? Okay, so Odysseus was England, like early England.
I have to look this up real quick, but
not Jason and the Argonauts.
Like I said, it's just, or I don't know. Lord of the Rings.
Jason and the Argonauts was Greek. Irish. Ah, shit. The literature part of my background is really crying out right now because I can't think of any famous Irish folktale that's really ringing a bell.
Oh,
I feel like I should.
The novel was Ulysses and it was written by James Joyce. Okay.
Ulysses?
That's why I had it confused.
That was an Irish work?
Yes.
Really?
Well, no, unless you're thinking about the Greek work. This was written in,
I'm absolutely thinking about the Greek one, but I'm like, maybe something from the Emerald Isle around that same time? I don't know.
It is an Irish retelling of the Greek tale.
Oh, that makes way more sense, as well as the author's very Anglican name. I'm like, holy shit, where am I?
As opposed to Homer.
But then I was thinking, well, James, that's kind of an old Hebrew name from the Bible, so I guess that's not impossible. You had me second guessing like everything that I knew about time and space.
Maybe some of it is that I just finally finished the Dawn of the New Sun series by Gene Wolfe, and after 5 books of that, there was a moment this morning where I had to turn the audiobook off because I was like, oh my god, I just figured out what he did. In that he essentially tells the classic hero story backwards, and he gives away the ending in a side drama in the second book. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I have to read this entire series over because I just realized the trick he pulled.
That's really interesting to me, actually. That's kind of funny. I always like those tales where the author is very clearly pointing you to the end game, but in a way that only he knows, because of course only he knows how it's going to end, or she.
Well, it's nice when these things feel actually planned out. And that was the thing, is that typically I would have attributed all this stuff to like, oh, okay, well, I guess the author forgot about that because that plot line didn't go anywhere. No, all of that was planned from the beginning and then doesn't really come to fruition until like the last book. Is like, oh my god, it makes so much sense now.
Oh, of course, yeah. I always love a good payoff in a book, in a series of books.
Well, it was also weird because I thought that the moral lesson was essentially like, oh, all these things are happening by coincidence because he's like a messianic figure and the universe bends itself to, you know, oh, it looks like happenstance, but it's destiny because he's the promised savior.
Of course.
Oh, wait, no. Actually, it's even stranger than that. So it's
nice.
like, wow, that's impressive.
Okay, so Nick, our final topic before closing out this episode, and for some reason, a combination of naming our white mage Dio and what you were just talking about jogged my memory. I wanted to ask for your impression and advice. You have watched pretty much what is available of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, correct?
Yes.
Do I just need to watch season 3 of that, or would you recommend the entire series?
Oh, I wouldn't recommend any of it. I mean, it's fine.
Don't waste your fucking time.
Don't ask me for a recommendation on anime trash. No.
I just noticed that it was on Netflix, and I'm like, you know, this is such a part of the cultural zeitgeist, and so many people seem to enjoy it that maybe I should finally give it a watch.
Don't you dare call fucking meme trash cultural zeitgeist.
That's what it fucking is. There are a lot of people to whom JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is high storytelling.
Yeah, until you've like actually watched it and you're like, oh, okay. All right, so no, if you want an honest answer to that, you can essentially skip part 1. That's not really important. Part 2 is okay. Battle Tendency is fine. Season 2 is... There's worse things you can watch. If you really want to watch the only actual quality of the series that isn't meme trash, yeah, watch season 3. It's definitely the strongest.
Because I'm well aware that when people cite or make memes about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it's always season 3. I'm well aware of like who Jotaro and Dio are, and that's about where my knowledge of the series fades.
Yeah, season 3 is definitely where Aroki had the best ideas.
Okay.
For the series. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna watch any of it, I can give a half-hearted recommendation.
Okay, so just watch season 3, and at least then I'll be aware of what the hell everyone's talking about.
Essentially, yeah. And the good part is that it's basically its own self-contained story. I mean, old Joseph is essentially Jonathan from season 2, but older. But in no way does any of his training or lessons pay off or influence his decisions in season 3. So it might as well be a completely
Don't you love that when they carry over characters between seasons and they completely lose all of the character development that made them worth watching in the first place?
Yeah. So, no, like I said, yeah, if you're gonna watch something, watch season 3. If you're looking for an actual recommendation, I would say just watch Black Lagoon instead, if that's on Netflix.
Black Lagoon. You're gonna have to tell me about that before we close here.
Little known anime series. It's essentially about an accountant who gets kidnapped by mercenaries, and they just end up having mercenary adventures every week. And it's great. I love it. Everything is its own kind of self-contained 3-episode arc, and it's just
so it's
fun.
Lupin the Third.
Yeah, but with more Nazis.
I'm down for that. Okay, you just sold me. Lupin the Third, but with more Nazis. Which is kind of funny because Lupin the Third happened to steal from a lot of Nazis.
Do you remember the Lupin the Third episode, Hell Toupee, where they literally steal Hitler's toupee?
Yep. Oh, absolutely, I do. Did you know that they have a Lupin the Third movie on Netflix?
Yeah, they have
that I
many of them, some of which are live action.
Yeah.
Did you know Lupin the Third was based on an Italian folk hero thief?
Yes. And it's so fascinating to me. Like, if you get bored on like a random Saturday afternoon while your kids are napping, what you can just dig up on fucking Netflix. Like, all of their best stuff is not what's on their front page. They don't advertise like half of their content. But it's hilarious what pops up if you look.
But yeah, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah. Well, Nick, anyway, between episodes here, I'm going to finish our grinding. I'm going to round out my arsenal of magics. And we're going to go into the Marsh Cave, and we're going to fight the Dark Elf King. So
I thought he was in a castle.
He is, but he's in a castle on the... Okay, so the order of operations here is we've got to go to the Marsh Cave to get the crown for the Elf King. At which point he informs us that he's the Dark Elf. We then take him down. We get Matoya's eye. We go to Matoya. She gives us the potion to cure the real Elf King, and then he gets us out of this damn peninsula that we're stuck in. And at that point...
that's what it was.
That should be about the end of episode 2, and then we're ready to tackle the first crystal.
When do we fight the Lich?
That'll probably be episode 3 or 4, would be my guess.
The Lich is my favorite part of the game.
That is good. The very first crystal dungeon, yeah, that is pretty epic. But yeah, I hope that you're not completely turned off from this, because like I said, it's one of those games that I can just revisit on a whim, and 10 hours later, I've had a little fun. So, anywho,
it's a fun little kind of coffee game where you put it on and then you play it, but then you're also talking about other stuff.
That's exactly right. As is the case with many NES games these days. But hey, buddy, we will catch you next time, and thanks for joining me on this one.
It's been a neat stroll down memory lane.
Excellent. Catch you next time.